So, Brian, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. And just would love to start out by having you introduce yourself and, telling us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so as you said, my name is Brian. I am the executive chef and kind of operations director for Wandering Vine and our future concepts that we kind of have pocketed in the works right now.
Awesome. And
We
where are
are
you all
we are
located?
based, yeah, we're based out of Kansas City.
Okay. Chiefs, are you a Chiefs fan?
Who isn't?
Oh, I mean, I'm a Bills fan, so it's a little tough for me.
I
But
was going to say the answer usually is everybody outside of Kansas City is not a Chiefs fan.
I think
Uh,
Buffalo has a little bit more of a bone to pick with you all, but it'd be what it'd be.
that's fair. That's fair. You guys gave us Xavier Worthy. Uh, and we've had some great games against you guys.
Yeah, no, it's been tough to watch, but nevertheless, we'll get into cooking. Reason I wanted to have you on, Brian, we spoke on Instagram. Yeah, I've done some content around the idea of familiarity regarding restaurants. So, can you speak to kind of what your goal is when you're serving food and this idea of how familiarity has kind of rejuvenated your business?
Yeah, so I think we kind of take a look at it from two perspectives. One, I think there's a large chunk of the culinary scene right now that's chasing novelty. They're always trying to find the next edge. Uh, what is what is going to be hot 6 months from now? And I will caveat all of this by saying that there is absolutely a place for that in kitchens and restaurants. For us, we have found success and honestly just pure happiness in what we're doing more when we stop focusing on getting people to visit and them to feel like they're returning somewhere. So for us, getting people to feel like when they walk into our place, it is a return to whatever they're returning to, whatever they feel like they're returning to, versus a fresh concept, if that makes sense.
Can you give an example of how in your restaurants you manage that, whether respecting to front of house, back of house? How are you instilling that within your team?
Yeah, so I think first of all, we take menu design a little differently. When we do menu changes, we're not looking to change menu items so much as we're looking to evolve the menu items. Whereas some people will kind of scrap dishes every 4 to 6 months and come up with a brand new concept where you've gotten your entire team learning how to do a brand new plating, brand new components. Sourcing gets crazy. Um, we take a dish and it'll go through 3 to 5 different evolutions before we might decide to move on from it, if we do decide to move on from it. So I think our staff being super comfortable with the dishes makes it really easy for them to fall in love with them and keep falling in love with them. And then in turn, that makes it easier for them to sell.
Is there a specific dish you have in mind when you're bringing that example up?
Yeah, so we have a dish on our menu called focaccia pizzetta. In essence, it's fancy pizza. Um, we have over the course of the last year and a half, it's taken a few different evolutions. One, it kind of just started off as like a tomato bread. We had some really great heirloom tomatoes and we make our own focaccia in house, so let's do that with some olive oil and some good salt, and it was good. We then decided to take it up a notch and make our own ricotta, so we were doing warm scoops of lemon ricotta on top of it. And then its current format, last year towards the end of tomato season, we bought about 900 pounds of heirloom tomato seconds. So it was the stuff that was going to go in the trash. We ended up making pomodoro sauce out of all of it, and we vacuum sealed it and froze it. So we're still currently working off of
That's
that.
awesome.
And it was our way to help the farmer make sure nothing went in the trash and to make sure that he got something for his product. And it's also our way as somebody in the dead of the Midwest. It's really hard to do farm to table in January.
Hmm.
So how do we maintain our connection to the farmers, and to everything around us in January and February? And so we find kind of little tricks to use products. Um, So we make our own ricotta. We take the whey that comes off of that and we use that as the water that goes into the focaccia base. Um,
Wow.
so nothing really goes in the trash on this dish. Um, and it's kind of in our minds reached the peak of its evolution. Um, but it's pizza. It's
Yeah.
We're allowed to, as chefs, really creatively flex our muscles on this dish because we found clever ways to use products. But in essence, people are eating pizza, and
Mhm.
so it provides them a level of comfort and us a level of kind of driving technique.
Okay. And when you, the 900 pounds, sorry, the 900 pounds of tomatoes you purchased, big purchase for the restaurant, obviously a decent purchase. Have you found, how do I want to ask this, like, you have that ingredient in your inventory now. Do you feel like the purchase that you made kind of help save some cost in the moment, like later on, like in January? Like you made that purchase in the summer, obviously, or end of the season. You're using this product all the way throughout the year. Do you kind of feel like that purchase saved you some costs as a restaurant while also keeping the integrity of your menu the way you want it in a down month for produce?
Yeah, I think anytime you can have consistency in your inventory over the course of a long term period, the better your food cost is going to be.
Yeah.
I think, and I've worked at some restaurants where they're like, okay, we're going to completely flip the entire menu every 4 months. And inevitably, after a few years, you just have this like backlog of ingredients and components
Yeah.
um, that are either freezer burnt or they've been sitting on the dry storage shelf forever. And you're like, I don't know what to do with this. It was on the menu a year and a half ago and probably never going to go back on. So even though it's on inventory, it's still dead money.
Yeah.
So for us, using the same components and the same ingredients and just finding clever ways to work with them, or being blessed enough to be in a place where we can purchase 900 pounds of something and uh, break it down into the pomodoro sauce and then freeze it. Uh, it allows us to have consistency, and what I have found in my career is whether or not it's through how you clean, how you cook, but also how you order, consistency can be a make or break situation in a restaurant.
When I think of the idea of familiarity, which you brought up before, and consistency as well, when I came out of culinary school and I was working in restaurants, I had a chef who I looked up to a ton, and he had crazy accolades of experience. What I saw him be most passionate about was going back to these recipes that maybe his grandmother did, or maybe that he used to, that were like local staples that he could then tweak and bring a new version of it to the market, where it's still like was something that was memorable of something of his past, but he brought like breathed new life into it per se. And so when you're looking at your menu development in 2025, this idea of familiarity, why do you think that is so potent when it comes to how customers are receiving your food?
So it's funny that you speak about something that your grandmother used to make. We have my grandmother's cornbread on our menu.
Awesome, awesome.
Um, and everybody just I've had a dozen people say like this reminds me of and for me that is the joy of cooking. I There are people out there that get joy in pushing the limits. For me, it's about creating and resuscitating memories
Mm-hmm.
in the people that are joining us. But as I'm looking at 2025 and uh, why I feel like familiarity is going to be so important is I don't know if you live in our world right now, but it's kind of hectic.
Mm-hmm.
It's chaos layered with more chaos, and I think people are craving that the family environment, the sitting down at the kitchen table. Um, Now they want it done differently than they can do it at their house, obviously, and they want it done in a way that is going to make them feel important. Um, and they want to be catered to, but they definitely want to feel like they're going to grandma's house or they're going to Sunday dinner because that evokes a time of stability in their lives that I think a lot of us are kind of struggling with finding at the moment.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Justin and I have done some podcasts recently, and I think one of the cool ones, maybe this is a solo one. I was talking about how Shake Shack is poised to be a really big winner in the in this year out of all like the fast casuals because they hit their value of item to price point on their menu. And so, I think and you give me your insight in this. I think when you are chasing breaking a new boundary or you're chasing like pure profit, you're on either ends of the spectrum of more likely missing or more likely not delivering on what customers need. And the one is a risk to innovation, which is great, but might not be what most people need. And the other, just chasing pure profit and giving the lowest common denominator is just it is what it is. I don't know. There's much more to say to it. But I think the sweet spot, especially in hospitality, is this idea of enhanced familiarity. And so, do you believe that in the next, like, say, half decade of the 2020s, do you believe that that's going to win out as like the defined way that many restaurant operators focus their menus?
Well, I think it's going to come down to that one word that you used right there is hospitality.
Yeah,
Why are people doing this? Because it is grueling. It is tiring. It is rarely um, met with praise. It is mostly thankless. Why are people doing this restaurant thing? Is it for pure profit? Because if so, like you said, you'll see it very clearly. The people that are striving for hospitality and for that to be the and for everything else to be secondary to why they're doing it. I think those are the people that you'll find succeed. And when you look at Shake Shack, I mean, Danny Myers is a genius, not only when it comes to menu development and the technical aspect of it, um, but I've read his blogs on LinkedIn. I study him. Uh,
yeah,
he truly cares about the experience of the people that walk into his store. We opened up a restaurant, and it's one thing that I heard him talk about. We opened up a restaurant with an open kitchen concept, probably years and years ago when I was with somebody else, and we sat in every single seat in that restaurant
hmm.
and looked around, and everybody made notes as to what they saw. Uh, and I got to tell you, we found probably 30 or 40 things that nobody thought to catch from different angles and different seats. Um, and it's about fine tuning the guest experience.
Yeah.
And so I think when you look in the next 5 years, I think the people that really care about fine tuning that guest experience, and I think Shake Shack is going to be one of them because of that. They're going to be the ones that are leading the next evolution of what it's like to be in the restaurant industry.
I remember I fell into this trap when I was younger in my culinary career that outside of restaurants, that the greatest hospitality comes from like fine dining settings, but you can make great hospitality anywhere really. It just depends on your intentionality and the effort you're willing to put in it. I'd ask as we wrap up, as we have people on, I kind of this idea of kind of furthering learning or furthering interest. Anything you'd want to share regarding what's inspiring you now, whether it be a piece of media, a book, music, or something that you think someone should go read in regards to food or even just outside of it?
Yeah, so I think, there's a really great article that just came out, and I've had a chance to skim it, but it's this thought behind using Chat GPT.
Hmm.
It has Grant Achatz and Jenner Tomaska discussing the use of artificial intelligence, and it kind of has the industry torn a little bit. Is it cheating? Is it taking away the creativity that as chefs like we should be known for? And I've used it a lot
Yeah.
as we develop new concepts. And from a learning technique, I would argue that it is something that we are going to have to use.
Yeah.
Because have you ever tried to explain a restaurant concept to an engineer, an architect, or it's impossible because this
No.
stuff lives in our mind for years and it just
Yep.
becomes part of who we are. And trying to explain that can be difficult. Um, I use it as a collaborator. So if I've got 6 ingredients, I'll say I really want to do this with it. I'm struggling to develop a crunchy concept for this dish, and it'll give me a fresh take on it. And for me, it's no different than talking to another chef and coming up with the idea. But I think chefs need to start playing around on that a little bit more and finding ways that aren't like, hey, develop me a new menu, because
Mm.
that's a little scammy, but finding ways to use it that still kind of honor the creativity backbone that we should have, while pushing this industry where it needs to go, which is uh, provide more work life balance, provide more comfortability for the staff, and to provide the best possible product that we can.
Yep, and more utility can be used in many administrative ways. It's just, yeah. I think people think of ChatGPT in the restaurant industry. It's like, oh, chefs are going to use it to like come up with menus. It's like, no, but it could be the reason. It could be a way that you plug in some numbers and it helps you identify where your menu is lacking or where you can save some money or where, you know, or like to your point, just ideation, helping you kind of get an anchor to something, a new recipe or a new concept.
Yeah, and I think even from taking a 1 degree further, like ChatGPT, AI, social media. 50 years ago, 30 years ago, I didn't know what was happening in Barcelona. I didn't know what was happening in the culinary scene in Japan. I didn't know what was happening one town over. Now I get the chance to. I have chef friends in Chicago that I've never met, and we will run dishes past each other. I can see what the best restaurants in the world are doing at any given second, and I get to have conversations with people in Buffalo that I never would have had social media not existed. So I think this idea that we kind of need to gatekeep what we are. I think the more we can be open about what we're doing, how we're doing it, I don't think there is a downside to this industry that approach will provide.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Well, thank you, Brian, for coming on. If you want to share any socials or where people can find you or your work, I think this would be the time.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys want to check out Wandering Vine KC, we are a 120-year-old castle in the middle of Kansas City, serving up some refined comfort food. Come check us out.